This is Chris Scott once again from Brooklyn Commune. We're right out here in Staten Island, actually, at one of the farms. I'm here with my man, Farmer John. We're right here in the origin, basically the ground zero of where it all begins. Everything that you get, either be it farm to table, even if it goes the factory route, this is where it begins, right here on the farm. And it's such an important and integral part of the whole farm to table agricultural dynamic that a lot of people just skip this step. And it's such an important part. You're going to see just me and Jonathan just hanging out, talking, shooting the shit, talking about what it's all about. So follow us. You know, I think especially where our restaurant is right now, you know, you have big corporate business. You have, you know, you got Fairway, you got Key Food and all that was in our neighborhood specifically. And the Key Food just closed. And there's nowhere for our community now to buy anything. I mean, let alone meat and dry goods, but now there's nowhere for produce.
Right.
There's a lot of the elderly that live in the area, a lot of kids and stuff, and there's nowhere to buy, you know, celery, lemons, oranges, tomatoes, stuff like that. People now have to drive further than they used to,
Right.
and now they can't even walk.
Sure.
So what Jonathan does actually, he does these little pop-up shops right outside of our restaurant. So now people that don't have the access to fabulous produce and healthy stuff can now come to the restaurant, and he sells herbs and beets and squash and tomatoes and lovage and basil and on right outside of our place.
And ironically, and this is not a jab at the good folks of Staten Island, you know, but just that, you know, the volume you see here, I would have almost no problem unloading this between, you know, Sunset Park to Greenwood, Windsor Terrace, all the way Park Slope, all the way through, you know, Prospect Heights, Fort Greene out to Williamsburg. It would sell, you know what I mean, like crack in the 80s.
Right.
But
Right.
unfortunately, you know, because that connection is not necessarily as prevalent here, you know, this farmer has issues selling his vegetables here. So that's also part of, you know, us sourcing to your neighborhood, who I've heard definitely folks who, when I come to make deliveries, have been like, oh, when you're doing the pop-up shop, there's nowhere to get vegetables.
Right.
Where people aren't really even coming here like that, beating down. Don't press him about that. It seemed as though that's really a need in your community. That's crazy that they did that. I'm surprised that that there's no.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, even speaking about a lot of this generation not even being familiar with the product. Myself, I didn't even begin to really eat fresh vegetables until I was 17 years old. You know, growing up, you know, my grandmother, my mother, two very busy women, they would buy stuff in a can and everything. That even as a youngster, when I would cook, you know, it wasn't until I was basically in my late teens that I began to eat fresh vegetables, began to cook fresh vegetables, began to become more familiar with the stuff. And I think that is how you can educate the generation now to move forward.
Oh yeah.
To be able to appreciate it and to integrate it back into their life and lifestyle. You know, you go. There's a couple places in Detroit. I'm tight with a couple of people in Detroit, and they were telling me that in the inner cities, that they'll go up to kids and they'll hold like a squash like this, and they'll ask, "What is this?"
Yeah.
A lot of the kids don't even know. You know.
I didn't know what that was until about 4 years ago.
On top of that, they're moving into Walgreens. So it's corporate business being moved out.
Walgreens
Corporate
into the
business
Key Food?
into the Key Food.
But is the Walgreens going to carry like fresh produce?
Nah.
Because you know they
it's
do in
like
the city, right?
body lotion and
Because the Walgreens in the city and the Dwayne Reeds, they carry produce.
they do.
Definitely.
Anything
They
local?
carry produce.
Or is it like
Sushi.
all that? Get out of here.
What?
Sushi.
Definitely. Sushi at Dwayne Reed. You ever seen it?
I've never seen that.
They definitely
Sushi
do.
at Dwayne Reed.
And people buy it too.
So it's clearly important, you know, just to be able to integrate this back into regular society, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's so much more, at least to me, it's so much more than just you know, a family coming out to the restaurant paying $35 a plate. You know, I want to be able to get this stuff to the families in the inner cities of Philadelphia and the inner cities of Detroit, you know, anywhere to where it's available for all.
Sure. It shouldn't be a privilege, right?
It shouldn't be a privilege to eat well. Exactly.